Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Saliha Afridi. I am a clinical psychologist and also the founder of the Lighthouse Arabia, which is a mental health and wellness center in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. I'm going to be speaking to you guys about uncertainty. I apologize in advance for my voice. I'm not sure what's happening, but it is an uncertain thing that has happened, and I'm going to roll with it, which is literally what this talk is going to be about today. So, before I get started, I'm going to share a screen with you, and that's going to have my slides just for the visual learners here. So, let's just get right into it. So, I have some time that you guys can have for questions. So, as you guys walked in here today, many of you guys have thought you're coming in with worries about work, about finances, about children, about the region. There are so many things that people are worrying about, and uncertainty, unprecedented times doesn't seem like a thing that happens every now and then anymore. It is now literally become like the weather. It is there all the time. And I cannot change the weather, but I can teach you on capabilities that you can build in order to be more resilient when change does come. Change is happening all the time, whether we know it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, it is happening all the time. So this is what I'm going to take you guys through today. I'm going to take you guys through what is uncertainty. So many people use this word, but they actually don't know what is it that is bothering me about where I am at right now. I want to really define that for you. And why does it feel so hard? Just so you can normalize that experience for yourself. Then I want to talk about what resilience is, because I'm afraid that the things that people think resilience is actually very unhelpful and even harmful. So I want to be very clear about what resilience is and what it is not. And then I want to talk about 5 psychological capabilities of navigating change, navigating uncertainty with strength and resilience. I didn't say tips. I didn't say hacks. I said capabilities. And like any capability, it takes time to develop. So what I'm going to share with you today, I want you to say, okay, well, this is the one I'm going to work on because I'm going to give you 5. Now I could go on and I could give you 10 or 15 or 20, but these are going to be the top 5 that I think are going to be most important. So what is uncertainty? Uncertainty is basically the gap between wanting to know something on not knowing and then wanting to know something. So what do you know and what do you not know? And there's a gap between. So what it's the state of not knowing what will happen, what is true, what to do. And it comes usually in 3 forms. It's about the future. So will I be okay? Will my child be okay? Will this work out for me? What's going to happen next? Future oriented, which a lot of people are feeling these days. Then sometimes it's about just the facts. What's actually happening? Do I believe what's happening? Who do I believe? What do I believe? What is true? That's also happening a lot these days. And then the third one is really about ourselves, which is what should I do? Who am I? What actually do I want? And sometimes we get stuck on the future ones or the facts one, but the most destabilizing one is really the one about us. Sometimes we think uncertainty lives out there. This gap between what we want to know and what we actually know is only something that lives out there. But actually, the most destabilizing one is going to be the one that we feel about ourselves. Who am I? How do I navigate this? What skills do I have to go through difficult things? That's all about you. And so these are the things that feel uncertain to a lot of people. And some things you will never know, but there are things that you can know more about, which is more about yourself. You can learn more about your strengths. You can learn more about your capabilities. You can build on that. You may not be able to get all the facts or you may not be able to figure out the future, but if you know more about yourself, then you'll be able to navigate it with a lot more strength. So why does it feel so hard? It feels hard because your brain is wired to treat ambiguity as danger. What is ambiguity? It's just another word for uncertainty. It actually feels dangerous. This is under certain situations, it triggers the same threat response as real danger. And these are uncertain times. So when when we have a brain, and our brain is making 1,000 predictions a minute. Okay. So before I dialed on, my brain was already predicting if I click this link, this will happen, and then the Zoom will link on, and then I will meet with the others, and then the people will dial on, and then we will get started, and the recording will be there. Like, these are all happening without me actually consciously doing anything. My coffee will taste the same in the morning. And when something goes off my predictions, it sends a whole alarm into my system like, what? Why is this happening? What happened? Why did that change? And so that's what happens when something doesn't go according to our prediction, or something all of a sudden feels unknown or different. We actually feel that this is something dangerous. And there's a huge link between uncertainty tolerance, it is actually referred to as that, intolerance for uncertainty, IU, and the link between that and mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorders. And so people who have a high intolerance for uncertainty, and that could be due to lots of things that have happened in their childhood where they don't trust as much. So they seek a lot more control. That is linked to mental health conditions. And the good news is that the resilience is a buffer against some of these things. It actually links if you have resilience, it will buffer the effects of uncertainty and distress. And the good news out of the research from Wang and his colleagues is that, and they did a lot of research on resilience, is that you can actually build resilience. So it's a trait just like any others. And before I go, I really want to share that uncertainty is very, very hard. I know I've said this, but I want to say it again because this is not going to be an easy task. If you go on this, adventure of trying to build capabilities, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be uncomfortable because the reality of the situation is that the brain would rather know bad news than to know nothing at all. And that's the thing. There was research done by Berker who said, and they did a research study, and if you were wrong, there's a 50% chance that you might get an electric shock. And if you're wrong, you might get 100%, you're 100% likely to get a shock. And through the measurements of the physiological measurements, through pupil dilation, cortisol, etc., they found that the people with the 50% chance of getting that shock, that mild shock, don't worry, it wasn't a big one, that mild shock, they were actually more in distress. Like, is it going to come now? Every wrong answer. They were more vigilant than the ones who knew that every time they got a wrong, they would get a shock. So imagine that we'd rather know something bad than to not know whatever is happening next. So, and we all know that too. So what is resilience? So let's get really clear about this, because what most people define as resilience is actually close to emotional armor. And, oh, let me be tough. Let me not get upset. Oh, look at this person. They don't have any feelings. They can go through anything and they don't have, they don't show a single emotion. Nope, that's not even stoicism, actually. And this kind of pushing through and not acknowledging your feelings, that's not emotional resilience. That is called disconnection from your emotional experience. It may be dissociation, it may be disconnection, it may be just, not being emotionally connected to something. And so I love this definition from the American Psychological Association, which is that resilience is not a rare trait that some people have and other people don't. It is a set of capabilities, behaviors, thoughts, actions that anyone can learn and develop and strengthen over time. Good news. I just have more and more good news for you guys. So no, it's not rigidity. This is not someone who doesn't change their mind, who's so set in their beliefs, who has so many convictions. No, this is like a tree. They're deeply rooted in their values, but when the wind blows, they bend with the tree. We're like a palm tree. We bend with the wind. We don't break under the wind. And it is a living process. That means because of the research, and there's beautiful research by this Anne Maston, who talks about ordinary magic. I love that word, ordinary magic, which is that ordinary people can build this throughout the duration of their life. Of course, the younger we are, the more neuroplasticity we have, but the older we get, we can still do it. We can just build it through everyday kind of capability. So this is not that you have to go and climb a mountain to build resilience. Through everyday practices, you can build that. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys. What can you do? And what are going to be the 5 capabilities that you need? So let's get into it. The first one is going to be, you've got to regulate your nervous system. Resilience requires a regulated nervous system. This is your body. I'm going to use the word nervous system for your physical body, okay? And so you can use whichever term is easier for you. But because you can't build any capability from a state of alarm, you must have steadiness, a centeredness, a calmness in order for you to build any capabilities. So this is going to be when you are in high cortisol, or when you have a high heart rate, or when your mind is rushing 200 miles an hour, shallow breath. This is not when you're going to be learning anything. This is not when you're going to be teaching anything. This is not. So someone could, when you are in that state of alarm, someone comes and says to you, just be positive, just think positively. And that's like trying to teach someone calculus in a burning building. You just can't do it. You can't do it. Your first thought is, I got to get out of here. And so that's the same thing. I can learn calculus, but not in a burning building. So how do we do that? We first got to bring our body into calm. Okay. The fastest way you can do this, and I want you guys to do this with me, is the physiological sigh. I want you to do it with me. We're going to do a double inhale and then a long exhale. It goes like this. I love doing that. Now do it again. That's a great way. If you just do that 3 times, you are going to bring your high order brain, your prefrontal cortex back online, because usually that goes offline when you are under threat, and the threat brain goes online. And that's when your aperture narrows, you can't see left or right, you only see front, and you only see danger. So that's the physiological side. The second thing is going to be cold water and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. Cold water is basically splashing cold water on your face, a cold shower, or just cold water even on your wrists that activates the mammalian dive reflex, which triggers your parasympathetic system, which is basically saying, conserve energy, shut it down. So if like you're drowning, your body goes into this dive reflex and it actually slows everything down because it actually needs to conserve energy. So that's going to be the first thing. And then the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is just a way of orienting yourself. I do this almost every 2 hours during the day. Notice your environment. Where am I? What day is it? What month is it? What am I doing? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This just brings you out of your head and into your present moment. This is a very powerful technique called grounding. And everybody's like, oh, how do I get my thoughts to stop? How do I get my thoughts to stop? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is going to be very powerful. And then there's movement. Movement is so powerful, guys. Movement is medicine. There's one research that shows that even 12 minutes of a walk, I'm not asking you to run. I'm not asking you to put on, your gym clothes. I'm just saying go outside like this and go for a walk. 12 minutes had the same measurable mood elevating effect as a low dose of SSRI, which is like an antidepressant, over a 24-hour period. 12 minutes of a walk. We can all do this. Okay, so next, you need to expand your capacity and build your flexibility. This is my most favorite slide, probably the most important slide that we're going to need. Every time that you resist uncertainty, you actually make it scarier. The work is not to escape it. It is to expand our capacity to be with it. The single strongest predictor of mental health across hundreds of studies stronger than genetics, stronger than IQ, stronger than your circumstances, was psychological flexibility. Now, what is psychological flexibility? I could give you all kinds of technical terms, but I'm going to give you something that I learned when I was a teenager. I used to be in an improv group. I don't know if you guys have heard of improv comedy, where you're just given a scenario and you just have to kind of keep building on it. And it gets funnier and funnier and weirder because you can't say no to whatever that person is bringing in. So there's two people on stage, and one person comes and says, "Hey, Sal, we're on a spaceship." I can't say, "No, we're in the kitchen." No, I have to say yes, and the buttons are not working. And then they say, "And we're about to crash into an asteroid." And then I say, "But there's someone here to save the day." Like, and so we are constantly improvising. So yes, and is literally the definition of psychological flexibility. The most dangerous part about this is yes, but. This is what most of us do, which is where when we say, this is like life gives you something and you say, "Oh, I don't want this. This is a no." This is where you're not improvising. When life says, "Okay, we have the situation right now," and you say, "No, I don't want this situation right now. I want another situation right now." This is the definition of rigidity and not psychological flexibility. So when you say yes, and now we're going to do something with this, and we're going to do something with that, and now what can I do? That is, I don't know what will happen. I don't know what's going to be the next thing, but I'm going to be able to move forward. And so this is very, very important because the University of Michigan did research on this about acceptance as play. And they did a lot of studies on improvisation where yes, but is very dangerous because it looks like acceptance, but it actually is resistance. So yes, I'm accepting that this is going on, but when will it be over? Okay, that is not a yes. That's not, I'm accepting, but. If you say yes, but, we are in negation now. We have to say yes, and how can we build on this? We build and we accept and build. So, so powerful. If you can say yes to life every single day and say, "I don't like this," and you move forward and say, "Okay, what are we going to do with that?" Okay. So here are some things that you can do as practices to build uncertainty sort of capacity. Do small things. One thing could be try a restaurant without reading the reviews. Send a message without reviewing it 1,000 times, not to your boss, but like to your friend. Ask a question without Googling the answer. I always sit with people and I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what would happen." And then I just sit with that, but they're all like Googling the answer already. Sit with the question. Make space for the question. This is what we used to do before Google came around. And we had more tolerance for uncertainty at that point. So that's what we do. Okay. We build in these little experiments of sitting with not knowing. Then the second one is cognitive diffusion. Observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. This is where you say, "I notice I'm having the thought that I don't like this." Instead of saying, "I don't like this," something happens you don't like, say, "I'm noticing the thought that I don't like this." What that does is it disconnects you and just gives you a little bit of space between you and your reaction. So that's what we want. We want to have a little bit of space between that. The third thing is acceptance. Allow difficult emotions to be present without fighting the feeling. Whatever you resist will persist. This is where the improvising comes in. Yes, and. That was a yes. Okay, yes, and this is very hard, and I'm going to still do it. Yes, I don't know what will happen, and I'm still going to move forward. Yes, and. And perspective. Also just try to see, okay, what else could this mean? What would I tell a dear friend? We're really good at giving great advice, but we're not really good at taking that advice. So, oh my gosh, we're running out of time. I'm actually going to go to this next one and then I can stop if we need to and take your questions. I may not be able to get to all of them. So this is a little bit similar to curiosity, the same thing, which is playfulness. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've talked about this on my Instagram, which is like we think of people as fearless, but they're not fearless. They're actually playful. They don't take themselves very seriously. They don't see everything in life as a high stakes, live or die kind of situation. They're just more curious. They're more flexible, and they wonder a lot. And so this is the research about joyous exploration, where you ask yourself when something different happens that you don't like maybe your coffee tastes different this morning, or you got a review that you didn't think was going to be good. You say, I wonder what is that bringing up for me? Or I wonder, what can I learn from this? I wonder, what is this going to teach me about myself? I wonder what I don't know yet. I wonder, rather than, oh my gosh, what's happening? Because anxiety and wonder actually run on the same kind of neural, um, um, what do you call those? Neural pathways, but they can't overlap for too long. Either you're going to move towards, which is I wonder, anxiety is move away from. So it's the same kind of danger that turns on in your head, but wondering makes me say, I wonder what's that, versus I gotta get out of here. Introduce play into your life. Again, this is one of those experiments that you do. And it could be anything for the reason of doing it. You're not going to swim because you want to get fitter. You just go and do things for doing sake. You take an art class, you take a pottery class, you do things that are very unfamiliar to you. And that's what we want to do more of, okay? And then use humor as a resilience tool. Connor Davidson resilience scale, which is like the most known scale for resilience, actually has things that they look for when it comes to humor. And some of these memes that we see on Instagram or on TikTok, we see people like laughing at very, very catastrophic things that are happening. And it's just kind of like you feel a little bit upset that you're laughing, but like it brings lightness to the experience. I'm not saying that this is a light experience, but how can I make light of, okay, now having to look for a job right now? How can I make light of being, in my 40s and being very tired? Like, how can I make light of that? Lightness is not avoidance. It's just reframing it as something different so I can approach it with a little bit more. So I'm now going to just check. Let's see. I'm not sure what to do with these questions. I'm going to go over this one really quickly. We all know that relationships are really good for us. It's really, really important that we lean on our relationships. So identify the 2 to 3 people that you can be very, very comfortable with. These are going to be your anchors. Guys, the single most, biggest and strongest predictor of happiness, about human flourishing, is how are those relationships in your life. And loneliness also has the opposite effect. Loneliness, people who have chronic loneliness, it's almost as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It has the same physiological effect. So we really want to lean in. We are social beings. We need people. And if you ask directly what you need, you are more likely to get it. Instead of just letting the other wonder what they need, you can just say, I just need to talk. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need anything else. I just need to talk. Or can you distract me? I don't even want to talk about this right now. Ask for what you need specifically, and give. In times of crisis, people who volunteer have um, lower anxiety because it increases agency during crisis. Like, I'm useful, I can do something. So whenever there's a crisis, look for how you can help. And that's actually going to make you feel better. And then lastly, guys, the number 5th one, this is a really big one. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to talk about this one because this one it's going to take some time. But if we have time, I will come back to this. I do want to take some time for questions. And if we have time, I'll come back to this. So let's take your questions now. All right. I'm reading these questions. It says, is resilience ever overused as a concept, especially in workplace? I think it depends on the workplace, on how they're defining it. Resilience comes from the Latin word resilio, which means to bounce back. Resilience does not mean you don't have bad days. Resilience doesn't mean that you don't crash out on a Friday and just say, I don't want to talk to anyone. Resilience does not mean that you don't struggle. Resilience means that when you fall, you bounce back. That's what resilience means. And so can you show up again after a bad day? Can you show up again after 3 bad days? Can you show up again after a bad review? Can you show up in times of crisis when things are not going your way? That's what resilience is. Okay. Um, let's see. Um, so why does the brain prefer certainty, even if it's negative? Because we'd rather know something than to not know something. We'd rather know the bad news and versus not knowing anything. So let me give you an example. You get a text message that says, "I want to talk to you." And that's it. And well, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to be like? What do you need? And you think about every possible wrong thing you could have done in the last 6 months to this person who sent you that message. That's because our brain, when we have uncertainty, we go into full on activation looking for threat. We're just wired that way because it's linked to our survival. If there is something uncertain and I think about all the dangerous things, then I'll be ready for it and then I will live. That's literally what is happening in our brain. So a known bad is now contained. It has edges and I can manage it. But a not known edge, it could be 1,000 things. And that's what makes us exhausted into being in this chronic vigilance state. So I hope that answered that. All right. Is there a sequence to the capabilities? Regulation always comes first, always, and then everything else. And you have to think about like what is hard for you to do? What comes easy to you? If you are one of those really controlling people, first you're going to regulate, and then you're going to work on building a capacity for just not knowing. You're going to ask yourself really hard questions and then sit with that. You're going to expose yourself to things that you're going to a country and you've just booked the hotel and you don't know anything else about it. Like these kinds of experiments where you're not planning and organizing every aspect of your life. And you say, I don't know what's going to happen, but let's just go with that. Or you have a potluck dinner and you just give everybody an instruction that says, okay, bring something to eat. But you don't say, you bring the food salty, you bring the sweet, no. I don't know what's going to come of this, but we're just going to have everybody bring whatever. And it might end up being a dessert party because everybody decided to bring dessert. But you're kind of leaving it open as an uncertain, and then you're tolerating whatever the outcome is. That is an uncertainty exercise, which makes me really anxious. But breathe. That's what you do. Yes, we'll take 2 more questions. My question is, if you orient towards being a massive overthinker, which I feel is a big barrier to having mental frameworks that you explain, do you recommend journaling as a way to explore and calm your thoughts and even to slow them down? 100%. You can always journal. Anytime you journal, you are making something concrete. You're taking it out of your head and into your paper. But I would recommend for overthinkers to do somatic work. You're here. We need to bring you here. How do we bring you here? You have to do body work, anything related to the body, shaking, dancing, moving, breathing, grounding, swimming, exercising, anything that's going to get you out of your head into your body. And, any of these grounding, I want you to Google grounding exercises. And there are cognitive, sensory, emotional, any kinds of things that are going to get you out of your head and into another space. That's what we want. We don't necessarily want to stay with the thoughts. We want to actually say, what else is there beyond the thoughts? And we want to connect to the body. Guys, after being a psychologist for 20 years, I can tell you this, and being a type A recovering and being a thinker and being someone who really is quite good at finding problems and things, after all of that, I can tell you, once I started doing my body work, once I did somatic work, once I did EMDR, trauma-focused work, once I did tremor release therapy, once I did horse riding, anytime I was doing something that included some kind of body movement, that's when I truly built a capacity for uncertainty. The key is in the body. We think it's in our minds, but the body is far, it will support you far more than your mind can. We just don't know it yet. We don't trust that because we've never trusted our body. We were kids, we were vulnerable, and now we are coming, we've learned never to trust our body. We said to our mothers, we are not hungry, but we still had to eat. We were taught never to trust our body. And that's where the big disconnect is. So trusting your body again, having a relationship to your body again, loving your body and showing up for your body, that's going to be so, so powerful when it comes to regulation and doing this capability building stuff, especially for the overthinkers. And then I'll take one more question. Um, so, so someone said, I'm a scientist, and to sit with the question is very challenging because I ask questions and seek answers by doing research, and there's such a high level of intolerance for being with the question. Okay, but at least you know how to ask the question. It is an intolerance, and now you build the tolerance. That's it. That you've been doing it one way, but you have the pathway to be another way. It's just not used. That's like going to the gym and only lifting with your left arm and lifting with your left arm and lifting with your left arm. And you say, my left arm is very, very strong. Doesn't mean that the right arm is not there. It's there. It's just that you haven't been working it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold that. We're still going to work it. You have a gift of looking for answers, and you have a gift of research, and you have a gift of intellectual rigor. But now we want to build something else with that. And we want to say, okay, let me now wonder what happens inside of my body when I just sit with the question. It's still a question. So you're just shifting your perspective into saying, I wonder what would happen if I just didn't answer that question. And then you see all kinds of noise happening inside of you. Pay attention like a scientist. Oh my gosh, my head got really noisy. My stomach feels very weird. My toes are tingling. Write it down. Be a scientist on your own process rather than looking for the answer out there. Figure out what's happening in here when you don't have the answer. And that will be very, very powerful for you. Do I have time to take one more question? I'll take it. They didn't kick me out yet. One more question. Um, let's see. Oh, no, I answered that one. Okay, there was one more. Um, okay. Let's see. There's one more here. So there are people that were born in a deep state of uncertainty around the region. And they've grown up with war or massive changes in their lives. And now, whenever we experience a moment of stability or peace, we feel like something bad is about to happen and that we're no longer, we're not used to a state of stability. That is actually very common. People that have grown up with instability in their homes, maybe it was parents, maybe it's the government, maybe it's, dad not having a job, financial insecurity, these types of things, any type, something you have grown up with, that becomes your MO. Now, anything that feels different from that is going to feel like danger. So what you have to do is you have to teach yourself that I am safe. Put your hand on your heart and say, I am safe. This is safe. I am safe. Because you don't know that yet. Because the thing is, our body and our brain will actually treat anything unfamiliar as danger. So people who have grown up in a household that was very chaotic and mother and father screaming and shouting or not being there, when they actually grow up and have a relationship where it's calm, they leave. They don't feel safe. They don't like it. It's boring. I don't know what to do here because it's unfamiliar. I don't know how this works. And then they are drawn to very chaotic relationships because That's familiar. I know my way around here. I don't know my way around here. So anything unfamiliar is going to feel dangerous at first until you expose and you expose and you expose and you regulate, expose and regulate. The worst thing we can do for anxiety is avoidance. When we avoid uncertainty by focusing on getting certainty, when we feel what's going to happen next and we start scrolling, that's the worst thing you can do. So if you are like, oh, I wonder what's happening, don't check it. See how long you can wait. That's you building a muscle to saying, I don't know what's happening, and I'm going to take breathe, breathe, physiological sigh, cold water, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do all the things that you need to do. And now you've built a little bit more room inside of yourself for not knowing or for saying, I'm safe. I'm safe right now. And it's scary for me, and I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Yes, and I will keep moving forward. So anything unfamiliar is going to feel like that. And anything unknown is also going to feel like that. I think that's it for you guys. I hope I can I, if you guys need to reach me, you can reach me on my Instagram if I didn't answer any questions, or if you have other questions, please feel to reach out to me. I don't know if you guys can share with the audience the ways they can contact me, but I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Thank you all for being here. It was my pleasure. And guys, I know these are hard times. These are times that are moving so fast. There is so much change in the air, and we could do this. Thank you.